أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد صلى على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المأسومين المذنومين واللعنة الله على أعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. وصلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا لثارات الحسين يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان. صلى على محمد وآل محمد. My dearest elders, sisters, brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Before we begin our topic for this evening, I just wanted to highlight a very, very important point and a notable point. We now enter the last few nights of Muharram, and it's said from our ulama that even their children, the ulama's children, would feel a level of grief within them, that they would start to refrain during these 10 nights actually, to avoid certain foods, to avoid certain talk, to dress in certain manners. They would be seen to be generally very distraught. I know it can be tough to sustain a state of grief and mourning, but in these last 3 nights that we have, in the lead up to Ashura, this is an opportunity to try and get into that zone. And why do I mention on this night in particular? Because it's Laylat al-Abbas alayhi salam. It's the night of Abu Fadhl. Any community that you speak to in the Shia world, Iraqi, Lebanese, Iranian, Pakistani, Khoja, any that you go to, the night of Abbas holds a very special place. Everyone has a very special relationship with Bab al-Hawa'ij. You don't go to Karbala and just forget him. There are other shuhada, unfortunately, that when we go to Karbala, we do forget them. But al-Abbas alayhi salam is one of the names on the list. So much so that you contemplate, do I go to him or Imam al-Hussein first? Where does my heart go in Karbala? To which individual do I travel to? So for tonight, I ask for your deepest attention in reverence and in honor of Qamar Bani Hashim, Bab al-Hawa'ij, Abu Fadhl al-Abbas, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. And given that he gave his everything, quite literally, I believe we can give our everything in our voice in honor of the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen and al-Baneen. Salla ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. 80% of the human eye is made of a firm jelly-like fluid. It occupies the space between the lens and the retina within your eye. 99% of it is water. The rest of it is a mixture between collagen, protein, salts, and sugars. And it's so essential that it helps maintain the eye shape and it keeps the very, very fragile retina in place. The eye is so critical to the human body that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has positioned it in such a way that it's almost embedded in within the skull, which almost acts as an initial protection for it. The eyebrows catch the sweat. The eyelids blink. And the eyelashes stop from dust going inside. The eye is a phenomenal thing. It's a special creation of Allah. It can see as many as up to 10 million colors. And in technology nowadays, we've gone from fingerprint scanners to iris scanners because they're much more accurate than a fingerprint. It's apt that on this night that we dedicate a lecture on the eye on the night of Abbas alayhi salam. Sorry, it's a difficult night for me personally. Everyone agrees that the physical eye is something so phenomenal. But how often do we analyze the spiritual version of the eye? Therefore tonight I would like us to look and understand the importance of sight from a spiritual perspective. What is it that we should learn through our sight, both for dunya and the akhirah? What things should we avoid looking at that can prevent us from getting those lessons? And is there a tangible impact on us as individuals and on society if we misuse our sight? We'll then try and think, what sort of things should we be looking at correctly? What should our eye possess? What understanding should it bring us? And we'll end this evening by analyzing an eye in Karbala to see what it saw on that day and in its last moments before it bid its farewell to this lowly world. In honor of Qamar Bani Hashim, offer salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in surah number 16, verse number 78, وَاللَّهُ أَخْرَجَكُم مِّنَ الْبُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Allah has extracted you from the wombs of your mothers, not knowing a single thing. And He made for you hearing and vision and hearts, that perhaps you'd be grateful for them. When was the last time I thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for my sight, for my hearing, or even my heart? We as humans use our sight, as we discussed in the last night, as one of our 5 senses to go and understand and explore the world. We're curious. We see a waterfall, for example, and we think, wow, what a wondrous thing. How did it get there? We see the sun, for example. We go, how does the sun hang in the air and is never late by even a second to any part of the world that it needs to shine on? The more that we see and the more that we contemplate with this phenomenal eye that Allah has given us, the more insight we can gain into the world and the more that we can think. Allah challenges us in the Quran. He says, أَفَلَا تَتَفَكَّرُونَ? Do you not reflect? I've given you this eye. Do you not reflect and look to see what you're understanding from this sight that I've given you? He then tells us in the Quran something about the malakut. He says, have they not contemplated on the malakut of the heavens and the earth, and whatever things that Allah has created, so that they may take heed from it and find the path to the unseen world? What's the malakut? The malakut we usually understand to be the imaginal realm. How do we link the imaginal realm to what we see in the world? When you see the beauty of the waterfall, and the beauty of the sun and the beauty of the moon, you start to think, I came into this world not knowing that it even existed. Yet Allah gave me sight to see all of these wonders. In the very same way, He will take me to a new world, which I can't see right now, and He'll make manifest everything in that world, which is the akhirah. It's absolutely possible. You want to see what's in this malakut? You want to see what's in this ghaib that we've discussed over and over and over again? It said, غُضُّ أَبْصَارَكُمْ تَرَوْنَ الْعَجَائِبِ. The Holy Prophet's words to say, shut your eyes from what is prohibited and vain in order to see the wonders which others do not see. We mentioned yesterday that hadith, that verse of the Quran, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, go and travel through the lands. But the second half of the verse people forget. Go and see how they ended. There's another part of the Quran that again mentions, go and see the world. Go and travel through the world. But Allah in this case says, and observe how He began creation. Then Allah will produce the final creation. Indeed, Allah over all things is competent. The more we see the world, the more we're realizing, yes, Allah, you created it from nothing, you'll create it again from nothing. It's no issue for you. And it's through this sight of the dunya, the fact that we can see each other and this building, that we can go, this sight will work in the hereafter. The more we see, the more clues we'll find about the akhirah in this dunya. We'll see, for example, a tiny, tiny seed nestled into some soil, and it will grow into a huge tree. This is all possible. Our eyes begin to give us an opportunity to learn. The Quran even tells us, go and analyze where you came from. فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ مِمَّا خُلِقْ. So let man observe from where was he created. خُلِقَ مِن مَّاءٍ دَافِقٍ. He was created from a fluid that was ejected. يَخْرُجُ مِن بَيْنِ الصُّلْبِ وَالتَّرَائِبِ. He emerged between the backbone and the ribs. إِنَّهُ عَلَى رَجْعِهِ لَقَادِرٌ. Indeed, He, Allah, will return him and He is able. Allah took us from literally nothing into something, and He will fold us up again and He'll create us again. This, if we use our eyes correctly, we can begin to see these lessons in life. We also notice with these eyes just how dependent you, I, our family all are on other creations of Allah. That you and I see the water and we say, without that water, I wouldn't be. Without the oxygen that we use to find in science experiments, we wouldn't be. Without gravity that we use by looking at an apple hit the floor, we wouldn't be able to be. Our eyes can give us lessons if we use them in the right way. And eventually we'll see all of these creations that my eyes see, whilst they may be dependent on one another, are fundamentally dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, it's incumbent that we use these eyes to go and analyze the world, to go and derive lessons, to go gain deeper understanding, to such an extent that our holy fourth Imam, Imam al-Sajjad, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajib farajahum. He has a beautiful line in one of his many beautiful supplications, and in particular Dua Abu Hamza al-Thumali that we recite in Shahr Ramadan. He says, Allahumma a'tini basiratan fi dinik. Oh Allah, grant me basira. Grant me insight. Grant me awareness regarding the religion. True believers travel through the world with their eyes wide open, with their intellects ready to take lessons from life. Because the more they analyze and they realize that their hereafter is definitely coming, the easier the transition is for them. We're told, إِنَّمَا يَنْظُرُ الْمُؤْمِنِ إِلَى الدُّنْيَا بِعَيْنِ الْاِعْتِبَارِ. A believer looks at the world with the perspective of taking lessons. Look at this beautiful lesson that Allah gives us about resurrection. Imagine there's an empty land. It's the peak of summer in a hot country. This land in the winter is fertile when the rain arrives, but in the summer, it's burnt, completely rock. No fruits, no crops, no greenery, nothing to see. Autumn comes, the rain comes, the grass comes, the fruits come, everything begins. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَحْيَيْنَا بِهِ بَلَدَةً مَيْتًا كَذَلِكَ الْخُرُوجِ. And with it, i.e. the rain, we revive a dead country. Likewise will be the rising from the dead. Why am I emphasizing this point? I will close it in a second, I promise. If our eyes, when we see the dunya, do not see the akhirah, the transition to the akhirah will be very tough for us. Use these eyes to see the akhirah through the dunya. Otherwise, we're not using them well enough. And the Quran tells us, if you're not taking lessons from this life, if you're just giggling and laughing and whatever, not focused in life, Allah makes it clear that this life for you is just lahwin wa la'ib. This is just diversion and amusement. And the one who is completely immersed in amusement can't see beyond himself. We're just focused on ourselves. We just turn up to majalis because we need to. We have a good time. We socialize. We go home. We eat the tabarruk. We have a laugh. It's like no difference. Hussein died. Abu Fadhl died. Doesn't matter. We just travel through life as if it doesn't matter. Oh, someone else died. We laugh about it. We struggle to even mourn for a day over that individual. And then eventually our day comes. And Allah's like, you had eyes. I let you see this life and death cycle. Yet you still just laughed your way and amused your way through life. And therefore Amir al-Mu'mineen says something super prosperous to us. He says, فَكُلُّ نَذْرٍ لَيْسَ فِيهِ اِعْتِبَارٌ فَهُوَ السَّهُ. Every look that does not have a lesson in regarding being attentive to and seeking the path towards the unseen realm and Allah is futile. Any look that doesn't see the akhirah is futile. Forget about it. It's amusement. It was just a joke for you, this world. If we're only allowing this eye to see the dunya, it means we're confining ourselves to time. We confine our intellect to just what we see. And if you want to confine yourself to time, when time ends, we'll end. But if you want to see yourself beyond time, into the ghaib, then when time ends, you'll see yourself flourishing in the next life. If we want to have an eye that can take these deep insights from the world as we travel through it, we need to correct it first. To get a pure eye, we need to get rid of the impurity. We must start by abandoning all of those forbidden things that our eye shouldn't look to. And I get it, it's difficult to refrain. We've discussed in the last few weeks, in the last few days, that this world has become so immodest that people are proud to show their beauty to those that they're not allowed to do so. Our eyes have become so brave that even when we shouldn't look to someone else's spouse, we have no issues in doing it. That will stay on that Instagram post for an extra few seconds. And guess what? Instagram knows that you paused on that post, which is why it sends you another one. When you scroll through Instagram, the algorithm is extremely clever. It chucks you football, it sees you scroll past. It won't chuck you football again. It chucks you a new shirt, you're not interested, you scroll past it straight away. It won't show you that shirt again. It shows you a footballer's wife, it sees you stall for a couple of seconds, it will show you another one a few seconds later. And it has you hooked. Allah saw that same stall as well. He saw that I look upon this, and as a result we just see this life as dunya. That's it, just pleasure, just amusement, nothing more, no akhirah. And then we panic when we see someone die. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. He's reported to say, Ra'sul war'i ghaddu at-tarf. The foundation of piety is to lower one's eyes from looking at blameworthy things. How does this affect us though? The eye is constantly taking pictures. As it scans around this room, when it looks from me to something else, it's taking pictures. In the same way that we're so careful about what we consume into our bellies, the same should be for our eyes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ أَلَا تَعَامِهِ. Then let mankind look at his food. Analyze where is your food coming from. In the same way, analyze what is going through your eyes. What pictures are your eyes taking? Go look at lush, barren land. Go look at old age and young age. Go look at illness and health. Go look at youth and elderly. Go look at flat land and buildings. See what your eyes start to tell you. When you're on a diet, you're told to eat little and often, single ingredient foods, stick to olive oil, keep it very simple. And you stick to this diet over a period of time, and then eventually you get told you can have a cheat day. People like me, the cheat day is mostly every other meal actually. You eat that food and you feel it when you next work out, right? You can feel something's just not quite right. In the same way, when one trains their eye that they just want to look at the purest of pure things, eventually when their eye goes onto something distasteful, your soul feels a difference. But you need to get rid of the distasteful thing in order to get to this realization. Therefore, go on a diet for your eyes. We create such meticulous diets for our food, but for our eyes, we've never even thought of creating a diet for it. To even bother abstaining, to even go and look at the food of the eye. Keep your eyes on the Quran. Keep your eyes on health and illness. Then when your eyes want to go and look at something dodgy, it will start to feel that there's a problem. We're told that continuance in taking lessons makes one attain this basira and distances him from issues. To have control over your eye, to derive these lessons, to be able to create that purity and get rid of the impurity, you need to know what is causing the impurity in the first place. With the diet of the stomach, we know that oil is a problem. That meat is more fatty than this one. This fruit is good at this time, but that fruit is bad at this time. What is the diet of the eye? If we can have a salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal faraj. And a second in honor of Qamar Bani Hashim, Abu Fadhl al-Abbas, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. What is the diet of the eye? If you're not about to write all of these things down, then maybe this life is just amusement and fun for us. I don't know about you, but I can't remember points A to H. I'm not going to explain all of them, don't panic. But at least remembering them would be useful. The first thing that we're guided towards to be mindful of our eye is looking at those afflicted with calamity in a difficult situation with a look of superiority in front of them, rather than taking a lesson from them. Arrogance. Looking at your parents in anger. This is something very distasteful to the eye. Backbiting through one's eyes. What does this mean? And I don't like to, I'll say it anyway. I don't like to stereotype genders, but some say that women can have a look like daggers. See? What is backbiting of the eye? Backbiting is when we say something about someone else that they may not appreciate, that they may find distasteful. The eyes can do exactly the same thing. She walks into the room. The dress isn't great. They're coming from over there. Your friend sat here. What do? Followed by the roll of the eyes, which I can't do. I would if I could. Backbiting of the eyes. Daggers. Looking at people in a mocking manner. Looking in a disdainful and belittling manner. Looking at anything that's prohibited, which we'll come on to. Looking in a mean and obscuring manner and menacing manner. And looking within the house of another person. Again, I think a few of us do when we go into someone's house. We're like, let's analyze all of their property. Yeah, okay, I see what they've got. We'll zoom in on the big one. And that's not to say that you should zoom in on Instagram. Looking at a non-mahram. An issue that has plagued man for years. If I could humbly ask my youngest brothers, I know you're excited. But if we can have the parents of the young brothers just to stay with them if it's possible, with a salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. A second salawat in honor of the mother of al-Abbas, al-Baneen, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha. Salla ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Looking at the non-mahram is an issue that is killing us. We're willing to do it just to get a short-term material pleasure. It's prohibited by Sharia, we all know it. It brings about great adhab in the akhirah, we all know it. And I'd say 99% of us have done it, and may Allah forgive us. The Holy Prophet's reported to say, لِكُلِّ عُضْوٍ مِنْ إِبْ آدَمْ حَذُّ مِنَ الزِّنَّةِ فَالْعَيْنُ زِنَهُ النَّظَرِ. For every body part of the son of Adam, there is a share in zina. And the zina of the eye is looking at a non-mahram. Is it that big a deal? I remember having this debate with a few friends from work. Like, dude, you're a bit too strict on this, aren't you? Let me just pull up some stats. And I want you to put in your head, if we had a society where individuals would not look at the opposite gender with lust, how many of these stats would be lower? I'm not saying they'd be solved. How many would be lower? Sexual abuse is one of the many impacts of this eye. According to UNICEF, nearly 1 in 5 girls is sexually abused at least once in their life. 1 in 5. And that's UNICEF. It's not a random NGO, UNICEF. In the US, by the age of 17, 18% of girls, 18, report that they've been the victims of some sexual assault or abuse at the hands of another adolescent. And UNICEF believes that hypersexualization is a factor. The American Journal of Psychiatry said that teens, talking about teens, between 10 and 25% of adolescents have received illicit images from friends. How much is the eye contributing to this? We've spoken about the physical hijab a lot, but today it's about the hijab of the eye. And just think, how many of these acts has the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tried to address at a core, fundamental, preventative level? Yet we're still saying, I'll follow the way that I need to. It won't affect me. It will affect you. And not only will it affect you, it will affect one of your family members. And maybe one day, it'll affect your own son or your own daughter. So let's come off our high horse and submit to the Creator that knows best. The previous hadith that I just mentioned aligns very much so with the ayah in Quran talking about hijab. Tell the faithful men to cast down their looks. And the end of this verse has a very, very key reminder. Because a lot of us do this. We have a quick glance, nobody knows, it's all good, we're safe. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the verse says, Inna Allaha khabirun bima yasna'un. Allah is indeed well aware of what they do. All of us are guilty of it. I said 99%, I'll go 99.5%. All of us are guilty of it. Have we forgotten that Allah is present? Have I forgotten? See it like this. With every glance that we take at that non-mahram in an improper way, it's like an arrow from shaitan aimed at your soul and the heart of a human to kill your fitrah. You have one look, the next day it's 2, the next day it's 5, the next day you're following people on Instagram you shouldn't be, and you have no issue following them actually. Our holy sixth Imam tells us the first glance, awwalun nadhara, i.e. the one that is without attentiveness, is for you. I.e. it's not problematic, it's not a sin. The second glance is against you, i.e. it's harmful for the person. And the third glance brings about annihilation. We go back to this end of that verse. Allah is indeed very aware of what they do. When Zulaykha followed Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam to gratify herself and proposed to commit a sin with him, Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam observed something very interesting. That Zulaykha had covered something with a piece of cloth. So he asked her, what did you cover? She said, I've covered the face of an idol so it doesn't watch me while I commit the sin. Hearing this, Nabi Yusuf said, if you exhibit shyness and modesty before a stone that does not see, it is more befitting for me to exhibit shame and modesty before the one who sees and who is aware of what is manifest about me and what is concealed within me. In front of my family members, I won't look at that post. But when I'm in my room, I'll stare at it for as long as I need. What's the impact? You can say it's having no impact on me. Deep down, it's fueling a lustful desire that rages within you until it's fulfilled. And frankly, if you're not married, to get this fulfilled is very problematic, very difficult. And shaitan even comes into the picture and he whispers. So much so that even when we do tawaf of the Kaaba, some of us are even struggling to focus our eye in that moment. There's a beautiful couplet in Farsi, I'll say it in English. From the sight and the heart, there comes a cry. From the sight and the heart, there comes a cry. that whatever the eyes see, the heart shall remember. That one glance that was for far too long is very difficult to erase from our memory, is it not? It's a regret that we live with. So be mindful what's on your screens. Again, I address the families. If you are watching shows with your children where people are badly dressed, and you can define badly dressed as outside of hijab, I know that may be extreme, but that's the Sharia ruling, right? Then what do you expect your children to do? If you're still glued onto these soaps, what are you surprised about? Set an example. Guide them. Let them see what right is. Let them see how you should go and look at the opposite gender in a very modest manner. We've become immune to it. TikTok has become one of the worst drugs of the eye. You can say you're following certain accounts. TikTok is designed to be in a certain way that it just simply takes over your mind. The stuff that you see, the challenges that exist, the young girls and the way that they're dressed. And we've got no issue with our families having TikTok accounts. I'm not saying now go and take your son and daughter's phone and delete it, but at least discuss with them. Tell me, who'd you follow? How many youngsters would be willing to let you go through their follower list? It influences your lustful desire. It influences the way that you dressed. It's so distracting that it can stay on your mind constantly until that gratification comes. But there's another impact of this. The more that our eye is seeing impurity, the more we get devoid of one incredible blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us. When you and I shed a tear for Ahl al-Bayt, that is a ni'mah from Allah that He's given to us. The more that we plague these eyes with illicit images, the less Allah will give us the ni'mah to cry for Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. Amir al-Mu'mineen reported to say, a person's tears do not dry up except because of the hardening of his heart, and the hearts do not become hard unless the sins increase. And shaitan's ready. He's ready to grip you. We said yesterday he's going to attack you from right, left, behind, from in front. But we've got to have mind control. We've got to be ready for it. How? Get your intellect engaged. Train your mind. We've spoken about this so much, I'm not going to dwell on it, but get your intellect trained. That is the muscle of your soul that you need working. Analyze your daily activity. How much of it is dedicated to training my intellect? And how much of it is designed to train my desires? If your day is split more so to train your desires, it is of no surprise that you're struggling to control those desires. How do you train your intellect? Read the Quran, study the hadith of Ahl al-Bayt, discuss faith, discuss your creation, go and look at the world, go and understand why did Allah create it this way, go and find the ghaib. Do it with your children. Thoughts are like your command center. If they win, your desires lose. And then you act with your inner disposition. And it's very, 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 very tough to take control. But if daily you stipulate, which we discussed in the earlier nights, and you say, okay, I know that situation could cause me trouble, so here's my preventative action. I know this situation I'm going to be exposed to people who may not be dressed well. I'm going to avoid it as much as I can. I know that situation I can't avoid, so let me just now read again what is the punishment of the one whose eyes wander, so that my mind is ready to look down when that moment comes. I know you may think it sounds extra, but if you don't invest in it, it is as if you see this life as amusement and engagement. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your revision. If you want to correct this, my dear brothers and sisters, if you find yourself plagued with addictions associated with illicit images, you need to put some effort in to correct this. This isn't a small issue. I'm not bringing this up on the night of al-Abbas just for the sake of it. This is a hefty issue within our communities. It's killing marriage. It's killing the prospect of marriage. It's killing the prospect of having Husseini children. It's killing the prospect of having a society that is readily preparing itself for our awaited Savior. It's not a small problem. Hold yourself accountable every single day, night and day. If we can ask the sisters, inshallah, if you can please stand and try and move forward. Please stand and try and move forward with the salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Practically, what can I do? Delete the stuff off your phone. That's the majority of where it's coming from. Just delete the stuff off your phone. Go cold turkey. Unfollow those people. Just get it done. Move on. If you're speaking to someone from the opposite gender who you know is quite good looking, just cut the conversation. Leave it. Don't bother anymore. Just do whatever it takes. Because if you value the tear that you cry for Imam al-Hussein, know that this issue could stop you. Go find beauty in modesty. Go find beauty in perfection. Don't find beauty in something so short-termist and fleeting. But how do I feed my eye with the positive food? Starting with, refrain from looking at that which is prohibited. We've got to get rid of the impurity. Then start by looking lovingly at your children. By looking lovingly at your parents. And this advice that Ayatollah Muhammad Baqir Tahriri gives is phenomenal. He says, go and look at your coffin. What a way to say it. You want your eye to look at the world and to derive lessons of the ghaib? Go and look at your coffin. Go and look at a grave. Go and look at the Kaaba. Go and look at a scholar. Go and look at a just imam. Go look at a brother in religion. Go look at the Sadat that represent Rasulullah. Go look at the Quran and allow your eyes to cry tears in fear of Allah's justice and in honor of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. One of those points that we said is to go look at your parents. Before they leave, go look at your parents. And parents, go look at your children lovingly. The Holy Prophet is reported to say, nobody looks with kindness at his parents, except that Allah records for him an accepted Hajj for every single glance. Whatever issue you have with your parents right now, my dear younger brothers and sisters, go and resolve it. Put your ego aside. Go and resolve it. Look them in the eye and say those words that you've probably not said for months. I love you and thank you. Thank you for letting me be in the majlis of Imam al-Hussein, because you fed me the milk of love of Ahlul Bayt. The Prophet was then asked, even if he looks at them 100 times in a day, the Prophet replied, even if he looks at them 100,000 times in a day, they'll get this reward of Hajj. I don't know what the answer to the question is that I'm about to pose, but I'll pose it anyway. On the day of Ashura, who stopped looking at each other first? Did Ali al-Akbar stop looking at his father's eyes, or did Hussein stop looking into Ali al-Akbar's eyes? One saw the grandson of the Prophet, the other saw the reflection of the Prophet. Which one? The other thing that we said is looking at the face of a scholar. The Holy Prophet's reported to say, النَّذَرُ فِي وَجْهِ الْعَالِمِ حُبًّا لَهُ عِبَادَةً. Looking at the face of a scholar due to love towards him is worship. I ask you, oh Abbas, could you have found a more scholarly man to keep your eyes fixated on than Hussein ibn Ali? The other point that we said, looking at the Quran and the A'imma. Looking at the verses of Quran is worship, as per hadith, if done with contemplation. The Holy Prophet is reported to say, النَّذْرُ إِلَىٰ آلِ مُحَمَّدٍ عِبَادَةً. Whoever would like to benefit from their sight in this world should constantly look at the Quran. Similarly, we're then told in Bihar, looking at the Ahlul Bayt is worship. Oh Abbas, I ask you, you stare into the eyes of a scholar in Hussein, you stare into the eyes of Hussein as an imam. In your last moments, was there something that prevented you from looking into the eye of Hussein? We're also told by the Holy Prophet, النذر إلى الأخ تودّه في الله عز وجل عبادة, that looking at a brother in religion while you love him for the sake of Allah is worship. Oh Abbas, would you look at your brother in religion with love? If so, even in that moment you were in a state of worship. Abbas, you look at the scholar, you look at the imam, and you look at your brother all in one glance. Oh Abbas, why do I speak about the eye on this night? Which eye was it, oh Abbas? I'm not sure. Or maybe the audience will tell me, Sadiq, no, you shouldn't have spoken about the eye on the night of Abbas. You should have spoken about the rights of the chest. No, Sadiq, you shouldn't have spoken about the rights of the eye or the chest. You should have spoken about the rights of the right hand. Or maybe you would say, no, Sadiq, don't speak about the right hand, speak about the left hand instead. Abbas, I don't know where your masa'ib begins, I don't know where it ends. Imam al-Sajjad, even in his Risalat al-Huquq, in this same collection, he then talks about the rights of a brother. وَأَمَّا حَقُّ أَخِيكَ فَتَعْلَمُ أَنَّهُ يَدُكَ. And the right of your brother is that you know that he is your helper just like your hand. How befitting for you, Abbas. And he is a supporter like your back against which you lean. Oh Hussein, what part of your body did you say broke after you loved Abbas? وَقُوَّتُكَ الَّتِي تَصُولُ بِهَا, that he is your strength with which you attack. Oh Abbas, you were the strength of Hussein on that day. And then Imam Sajjad says, never abandon assisting him regarding himself, helping him with his enemies. Oh Abbas, I would say that Imam Sajjad found inspiration on the rights of the brother by looking at your rights that you fulfill to your brother Hussein. Sallallahu alayka ya Sayyidi wa ya Assalamu alayka ya qamar bani Hashim ya bab al-hawaij ya abul Fadhl al-Abbas. I know all of us in this room at some point, the majority, at some point have made a haja and asked Abbas to fly with those wings that Allah gifted him towards the heavens and to give it to Allah on our behalf. And I know many of these hajat have been fulfilled already or will see their fulfillment in the future. Abbas has a very special place in our hearts, and I believe that Allah put it there. When Abbas alayhi salam saw all of these martyrs, and he would see his brother turning towards his family, he himself said to his brothers from his mother and father, Abdullah, Uthman and Ja'far, and said to them, go forward. O sons of my mother, until I see that you have given your admonishment seeking the pleasure of Allah and His Messenger, go. He turns to Abdullah, who was older than Uthman and Ja'far, and instructed him, saying, go ahead, my brother. Fight until I see you killed, and I will count you amongst those who supported the cause of Allah. All three of his brothers go ahead and die. Abbas is ready for this. He's nurtured for this. As we said the other night, al-Banin has prepared him for this day. At this point, Abbas sees his brothers die, and that's it. He can't remain patient anymore. He knows this is his time. He sees Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam making these calls, هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنْصُرَنَا, is there anyone to help us? These final calls that come from Hussein. Ya Abu Fadhl. The thing that gets Abu Fadhl the most is that he hears some cries from the tents. Abu Fadhl al-Abbas alayhi salam hears the cries of the women and the children. He hears the cries of al-Atash, al-Atash, al-Atash. Oh, the thirst, it kills us. Is there a drop of water that the household of Rasulullah can have? We are only young, we are Sukain. Oh, please bring us some water because of the sun of this desert is so hot. The cries increase. This is a man who's told, serve this family. Okay, if they want water, I will serve them. He approaches his brother and he requests permission to fight. Hussein says, Ya akhi, anta sahibul liwa'i. You're my flag bearer, O Abbas. Abbas says, I've lost my patience over these hypocrites, and I now want to take revenge from them, O Hussein. So Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam gives him an order not to go and fight. Imam al-Hussein says, Oh Abbas, if you want to go into this battlefield, firstly go and do this. Go and fetch some water for Furat and bring it back to my children and the children of Rasulullah. Abbas alayhi salam approaches the enemies and he warns them about the anger of Allah. He calls out loud and he says, Oh Umar ibn Sa'ad, this is Hussein, the son of the daughter of Rasulullah. You kill his companions and his family members, and these are his women and children who are thirsty. Just give them some water as the thirst is burning their hearts. He is even saying, let me go to Rome or India and I will leave Hijaz and Iraq for you. Shimr answers him, La'natullah alayya Shimr. He says, O son of Abu Tarab, if the face of the whole earth was water and it was under control, you would not have been given even a drop of it until you pledge allegiance to Yazid. Abbas returns to Imam al-Hussein and informs him of what has happened. But Abbas can't bear to hear the increased crying from the children of Hussein. So the Hashemite sense of protection and chivalry arose in him. He would ride his horse towards Furat. Oh Mu'mineen, what does Abbas take with him? He takes a bag that he can fill the water with. He goes straight to the Furat. He reaches the river. 4,000 men are surrounding him. They shoot him with arrows. He's not threatened. He attacks them with his sword until the men disperse and he gets into the water. The eye is meant to derive lessons for the akhirah. Abbas sees water, but he sees his akhirah. He arrives at the water, he takes some of this water into his hand to take a drink. Innocent, allowed, permissible, mubah. But then he would remember the thirst of Hussein. He would remember the thirst of Sukaina. He would remember the thirst of Zainab. He would remember the thirst of Ali al-Asghar. Abbas takes this water, he looks at it, he sees his akhirah, he chucks it away. Then he recites these lines that are so famous. He says, Ya nafsu min ba'd al-Husayn huni. Oh my soul, after Hussein be in disgrace. Wa ba'dahu la kunti an takuni. For after him you better not be. Why? Hadha Husaynun waridul manuni. This is Hussein arriving at death, and you decide to drink the cold water. By Allah, this is not the teachings of my religion, nor is it the action of one with truthful intentions. He controls his soul. he settles himself. Abbas, the master of the one who's able to control his soul. Abbas alayhi salam, he fills the water bag with the cold water from Furat. He would mount his horse and he headed back towards the camp. The poet says that look at Abbas, he's galloping back to us. In Abbas we do all trust, he will reach us, he must. But why is that arrow about to thrust into his eye? Abbas, don't stop, don't worry, the alam's not dropped. Sukaina has hope. Sukaina has hope. Perhaps she tells the women and the children, don't worry, my uncle Abbas has never ever come to me without my request fulfilled. So long as that alam is high and Abbas is alive, he comes, he'll deliver, don't worry. Abbas alayhi salam mounts his horse, he heads back towards the camp. However, his path was intercepted by the enemies. Abbas attacks them and strikes them with his sword, killing many of them, and he tells them that I do not fear death, and if death was to arise, until I make the swords meet one another, my self-defense is for the self of the pure grandson of Mustafa. Why? For I am Abbas and I am bringing the water. I don't fear death even when I meet it, but oh Abbas, as you ride back you go past a certain tree. There is a man there, oh Abbas, be mindful of this man, for this man would come out from behind the tree and he would strike the right hand of Abbas. The right hand of Abbas is severed, oh my dear brothers and sisters. Don't worry, Abbas is brave. He takes the water bottle into his left hand. He continues to attack them. Then he says these beautiful lines, Wallahi in qata'tum yamini, I swear that if you cut off my right hand, inni uhami abadan an dini, I will surely remain defending my religion. وعن إمام صادق اليقين, and the holy Imam with truthful intentions, نجل النبي الطاهر الأمين, the grandson of the Prophet and the purified and honest. Abbas continues on his mission, his right hand no longer with him, Sukaina in his mind, the water to be delivered, his mission is focused. Abbas, be mindful, because there is another man hiding behind another tree. Oh Abbas, be mindful of this man. Why? Because as Abbas would pass this man, he would strike him on his left hand, cutting it off as well. Abbas says, he says to himself, Ya nafsu la takhshay min al-kuffar, oh my soul, don't fear these non-believers, and bear the glad tidings of the mercy of Allah with the Prophet, with the Master, with the Chosen. Indeed, they now cut off my left hand through their acts of repression. By Allah, punish them in the fire of hell. But at this point, my dear brothers and sisters, Abbas has no hand, so I ask you, where does he put the water canister? Perhaps he would hold it within his teeth, I don't know. Perhaps he would bend over on his horse to hold it with his chest, I don't know. I've never seen a man without two hands, I don't know. The enemies would attack Abbas from all sides. They would bombard him with arrows. He doesn't mind the arrows, but my dear brothers and sisters, there's one arrow that he minds. There's one arrow that flies through Karbala. Where is this arrow going, I ask you, Karbala? This arrow flies into the water bag. The hopes of Sukaina, the hopes of Asghar, the hopes of Al Muhammad. It spills onto the ground, but there is another arrow that comes towards Abbas, and it pierces the chest of Abbas. There's another arrow that pierces the pure eye of Abbas. It doesn't end here, brothers and sisters. A man comes and strikes Abbas on his head. Abbas hits the floor. He looks towards Hussein. He says, Alayka minni salam ya Aba Abdullah. Upon you my greetings, O Aba Abdullah. But the Maqtal says that he says another line, and I don't know whether Abbas ever said this in his life before to Hussein. He says, Adrikni ya akhi. Come to my help, oh my brother. Imagine the state Abbas must be in to ask for help. Hussein rushes to his brother. Hussein, you must have thought I'm going to reach my brother maybe with one arrow, maybe with one strike to his body, I don't know. Hussein, you reach the body of Abbas and you see him with no hands, with an arrow in his eye and his chest. And now Hussein says, Al-an inkasr dhahri. It's now that my back is broken, my resources have declined, and my enemies are mocking me. Ya Abbas, cry on this night. Don't hold back your tears for Bab al-Hawa'ij. May Allah reward every single tear that you shed, and may al-Banin collect it. May it be shafa'ah for these eyes that have sinned, Ya Allah, on Akhirah. Weep for Aba Abdullah, weep for Abbas. Especially weep for this line, my dear brothers and sisters. You want to know what a servant, what a slave looks like to his master? Look at the line that Abbas now says. He says, Sayyidi ma turidu an tasna'. My master, what do you want to now do with me? Hussein replies, Uridu an ahmilaka ila al-muqayyim, that I want to take you back to the tents. Oh Abbas, why did you say no to going back to the tents? Is it because if Sukaina were to see you, she would expect the water to come with you? Abbas requests Hussein, leave me here next to the river. He has a final moment in his brother's lap. He sees an imam, he sees a scholar, and he sees a brother in Hussein. Perhaps now your mission is now accomplished, Abbas. Hussein returns back to the camp alone without Abbas. He's broken hearted, he's in grief, he's crying, he's wiping his tears with his sleeve. Now the enemies know that Abbas isn't there, they start making their way towards the tents. Hussein says, is there a helper to help us? Is there a defender to defend us? Is there someone seeking the truth to support us? Sukaina approaches you to ask you a question. Oh father, where is Abbas? I don't see him here. Oh father, where is the alam? Has it now fallen? Oh father, what does this mean? Zainab comes out and she says, Wa akha wa Abbasa. وَضَيْعَتَنَا بَعْدَكَ. Oh brother, oh Abbas, we are lost without you. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الكافرين. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين.